Welcome to the Football Classic. My name is Lavesh and that's Shan. This
Uh,
week we're going to go through our picks for game week 3. And I mean, what a crazy time it's been. I've been sick. I'm so grateful to be back and things. We've had a lot of price changes since last week. We've seen our first player get his full 20 points in a game week. Some people have played triple captain, some people have played free hits. Things have been crazy. We've seen players changing teams as well. Like, you know, let's get straight into it then, Sean. One of the things that I did see, speaking of player changes, is Arrizabalaga. I seen on the Bournemouth Twitter page, they came up with something that the official FPL account retweeted, and I got it right here. It says, "Who needs a new official FPL goalkeeper?" And then below that is a picture of Kepa Arrizabalaga and it says club switch. Now, that means that Bournemouth have definitely signed Arrizabalaga, which is great news for FPL players as well as for Bournemouth themselves. I mean, Arrizabalaga is a brilliant goalkeeper. He's always been somebody that I've admired. I really like his way of doing things. Um, yeah, I know I might choose him as my goalkeeper going forward. I'm not too sure. I'm first going to give him 1 or 2 weeks to see how he actually runs before I decide to put him on my team. But yeah, I don't know about you, Shan. Like, what? Would you go for Ariza Balaga? Would he make the cut for your team, your sub goalkeeper? Or would he not make your team at all? Like, and is there a reason why?
so I'm not looking at Areola at the moment. I'm actually going towards something that's also been happening in this transfer season. And if anyone's paid attention, they've seen Ramsdale has moved over to Southampton. And that is a big, big, big move. If I'm really looking at keepers and favoring the fixtures at the moment, I'm definitely going to look at Ramsdale. His next few fixtures are big point hitters. And in terms of that, I look at it in terms of Kepa still being a very young, agile keeper, but they do concede shots. And that is a big problem with Bournemouth. They have conceded a lot of shots in the last few games. They still do concede shots. I do think that at the end of the day, Ramsdale is a slightly better option in terms of bringing in a new keeper. I do have Henderson on as my starting keeper at the moment, and at the price of 4.5 million, Kepa is a big differential that you can look at. He is a nice option if you are looking at something budget friendly, something that is going to give you a little bit of edge over the competition, a big differential. But there is so many other options in that position. So we'll have to really see how that goes. But looking into it, I mean, another huge signing from Liverpool, Chesa, has just joined Liverpool, and that is a big option, a big differential. We know he can play up front. We know he can play through the back. He is a big forward winger, and he is going to play quite well in the season. I might be looking to bring him in after the Liverpool versus United game week. I know this is a big game week, especially for us. We always argue about this game week. We always have fights. You will probably hear our mouths by the end of this. We probably will shoot a live, just kind of seeing the reactions to what is going to go down this Sunday. But if I'm looking at something big and going forward, I'm definitely looking at him as a choice. I'm not sure about you, Love, but I do think Liverpool's fixtures after United is still in a great form. Salah's been performing quite well. Diaz has had some brilliant assists during these last two game weeks. They are looking like the best team right now in terms of fixtures. We've got to look at fixtures at the moment. This season has a lot of big overall points that have come through. Like last week, looking at Cole Palmer, 3 assists and 1 goal. Haaland, another big option. He scored 3 goals against Ipswich. A lot of guys went and triple captain him last week, which was a big shock. But there is still a whole season to play ahead. We're going to have to look at a different alternatives to those things. What would be your alternatives for the next upcoming week coming, Love?
You know what? I personally, if I look at my team, I went with, if I'm looking at my midfield, I went with Gordon, Palmer, Jota, Bernardo, and Rice. Now, they've all performed quite well. Cole Palmer has been magnificent. I've made him my captain for this week. He's going crazy. I absolutely love it. We knew from the start. We did talk about this when we recorded our first episode. And I think you mentioned it last week as well, that he's a great pick for people. So I decided to captain him. Jota as well, it's a bit risky because Liverpool has some good midfielders, and the chances of Jota not playing is also a possibility. It's a 50-50 as to whether he might get game time or not. I know I did burn my fingers with Nunes the other day. I'm not going to do that. I actually got rid of him from my team because I know that's a bit risky. Bernardo, Man City, they playing West Ham. That's also a good choice, I think. Yeah, I think Manchester City players are generally a good option, especially with players that do click well with Haaland. Like you said, Haaland done fantastic this past game weekend. He does fantastic most of the weekends. Last season he did have a bit of a dry spell, but yeah, other than that, if players do click well with Haaland, the team goes fantastic. And I do suggest looking at more players that would complement Haaland in your team. If you have Haaland, if you don't, still look at players that would complement Haaland, as you're still going to get those points. Now, Rice also been a good player. We have seen some good things from him. I'm just gonna pull it up here quickly. Yeah, well, last weekend and the previous weekend he's had 2 and 3 points. However, Arsenal does have Brighton Hove Albion this weekend, and I hope actually that they are going to perform. He's definitely going to perform. Come in there, put in a goal or two, or at least an assist. Just get some of that points in there. On my defense, I know I'm working backwards, sorry, but yeah, I have White from Arsenal as well. That might be something that I'm going to change a bit later on, maybe tonight. I'm not too sure. I do have Dunk and Welbeck as well that I could look at using so that I can get two forwards or whatever. But yeah, at the moment it's a bit tricky because I obviously want Welbeck to score, but then we have my defense, which is White, which is a very tricky option. I don't know where to go. I might just decide to actually do a transfer and change to somebody else. We'll have to see how that goes. Then I have Pedro Porro next to him. I've been quite happy with his performance in the past 2 weeks. 6 points and 9 points. For me, that's brilliant for a defender. That's all that you can really ask for these days. You can't expect them to keep a clean sheet every week because they are fantastic players from all of the teams.
Mhm.
Next, I have Virgil van Dijk. I know, Shan,
Eish.
this might not be something that you're happy about, but as you can see, I have two Liverpool players because you know what's gonna happen this weekend. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but yeah, we
I
know
just
what's
I just
gonna
want to
happen.
remind you of
I
what
then
happened
have
in the FA Cup final last season. We might just have
oh,
a repeat of that again.
we'll see. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Don't worry. Maybe we'll see a 7-0 against you guys. Huh? Who knows?
Look, I do think that it's going to
Then
be a very exciting game as well when it comes down to Liverpool and United.
yeah.
It is a big fixture. It is a big goal scoring fixture. And I'm hoping that we kind of see that old derby like feeling. Let's get some big points from it. But in terms of that, and looking into my team just on that, Watkins is a big if at the moment. I mean, he's playing 2 games, he's only got 2 points. What do you think of actually what going forward with budget friendly strikers in terms of Isak, Wisa? Those are kind of the names that have been kind of coming around in FPL this season. Joe Pedri is another one, like you said, Danny Welbeck. What are kind of your picks towards those?
So yeah, Isak definitely brilliant. If we're looking at midfielders and things, I would look at more the Welbeck and the Saka. Saka is a big one. I got it open here. I'm just looking at it. Saka, for the past 2 game weeks, he's had 18 points in total. That's 1 goal, 2 assists, and 2 bonus points. Welbeck has had 2 goals, 1 assist, 6 bonus points. That's 21 points for him. And currently, Saka is a bit more expensive. He's on the 10 million. But then we look at Welbeck. I mean, Welbeck, 5.6 million. That's a steal. Currently, there's 10.1% ownership on him. Saka, 34.1% ownership. But again, like I said, you're saving about 4.4 million. If you're going for Welbeck instead of Saka, which you can then use to put towards another player. So if you want to going back to somebody like Haaland or Salah, if you want to throw somebody like that into your team, you have that extra budget to do so. Even if you want to put Cole Palmer in there, you can do so as well. I just have some of the price changes and stuff. Yeah, so I'm just busy looking at that. Price changes is a big thing. So, like you said, looking at cheaper midfielders, cheaper defenders, cheaper attacks, whatever, it is a bit difficult early in the game, in the early season, because things are changing quite a bit. Like, I'm looking at this now. Phil Foden has dropped to 9.4 million.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a huge
Kulusevski
change
has
for
dropped to
FPL.
6.4. Yeah, Kulusevski has dropped to 6.4. Nkunku dropped to 6.4 as well. Nathan Ake, 5.4. I mean, these
Mhm.
are crazy. Kyle Walker dropped even to 5.4. Scott McTominay. I think you had him in your in your team last season sometime as well. He's gone
No,
down to
I did have
4.9.
McTominay actually in my season, but just on that note, McTominay to Napoli, done deal. Fabrizio Romano confirmed, and Ugarte on the way to United. That means that there's going to be a very big change up in the midfield. And if we really have to look down and deep into this at the moment, the big names that you want to be looking at United is Bruno. We know the season numbers he's put up in his previous seasons. We know that he is going to cause some chaos. But just away from United for a second, like we were speaking about price changes, Kai Havertz started at 8 million. He's already rise to 8.2 million. He is a big forward if you are looking for someone that is going to give you points, that is going to give you goals. And there's so many different names, like you've said through. Aki has dropped points, Walker has dropped points. But the biggest problem with all of these things and looking into it is Pep likes to rotate his defenders. We've seen it time and time again. He enjoys playing with people's minds, if I'm going to put it out in that way. And you never know what you're really going to get from Pep during the season. And that is a big, 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 big ask. Will Haaland start this weekend? We don't know. Especially coming up with so many of the different cup game fixtures that are going to come up towards the later of the season. We might just see a lot more rotation on Haaland. I still don't see that 15 million worth it. Maybe if it comes down to about 14.5, we can kind of look towards that. But I still don't think that 15 million is worth it in terms of that. I mean, a lot of the
Yeah.
guys, shout out to my FPL home at work as well. Those guys always have a meeting. We always in the group sessions, always discussing it, and people are still talking and raving about how good numbers Salah has put up. I know that there's people that have Salah in their team right now, and they're thinking, but this man can only just go up in price. If you don't have Salah this season, you are missing out. That is a big, 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 big key, man.
I mean, if you look at it, Salah's now gone up to 12.6 million, and he currently has 37.5% ownership. That's more than a third of FPL players that actually have him on their team. But that being
Hmm.
said, there's a lot of players that don't have him. I mean, that's close to 2/3 that decided to miss out. I'm one of them. I personally didn't feel the need to spend 12.6 million on Salah currently because I can get a similar performance out of somebody like Cole Palmer. I know
Hmm.
it might sound like I'm saying something against him, But that's not the case. I love the way Salah plays. I've always been a big fan of him. I've always defended him. Everybody called him a one season wonder. I mean, they need to swallow their words. He's not a one season wonder. The same people that called him a one season wonder are all throwing him into their FPL teams. And I mean, does it make sense? No. So why do it? Now, before we carry on, Sean, um, I just like to point out, if you haven't already subscribed, liked, or shared the channel, please do so. And also, in the comments at the bottom, I'm going to drop a link to our Football Classic Fantasy Premier League. And yeah, don't forget to join that. So on that note, I know I did say that I'm going to give a shout out to whoever comes out first each week. And this week it is a team by the name of Millions. This team got 98 points for the week, and something to note on that particular team as well. It was a massively brilliant team. I mean, the team got Salah and Haaland in there. I mean,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
brilliant,
Who
brilliant
has
team.
Salah and Haaland? Like, how do you have enough budget to do that? Like, I'm gonna pull up that team quickly on my side, right? And I'm gonna tell you exactly who the players are on that team. It's wild. Raya as goalkeeper, that was 10 points. Van Dijk, 7 points. Burn was a bit of a burn for 1 point. Robinson, 7 points. Suchak, 8 points. Salah, 10 points. Palmer is on this team as well with 17 points.
Ooh,
Bernardo, 2 points. PM Saw, 1 point. Haaland was captain, 34 points. And Nunes at 1 point. I mean, that is crazy. Like, I'm looking at this team. I was looking at it earlier today as well. And I'm like, how did you manage to get this right? This is crazy. Like, I mean, Haaland, Salah, and Palmer on one team. That is ridiculous. I never thought it possible. I never thought I'm going to see it. And in our league as well. So remember, the link is at the bottom in the comments. So join it and stay up to date with our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing as well. Get your friends to like it as well. Now, Sean, I know I might have interrupted you there, but I also want to make a special mention to the person that got the most points for this game week. That was Zerksky, and I know it. That is the
hey,
team's name with 99 points. Now, just to let you know though, there is 1 point difference between Million and Zerksky, and I know it. Zerksky, and I know it, was one of those players that went to go and triple captain Haaland. They also had Diaz, who pulled in 14 points, Jota with
mhm.
6 points, Van de Ven 9 points, and Alexander Arnold with 6 points. That is crazy. Like, I can't believe the teams that the guys are pulling out with. I can't believe that this guy decided to actually triple captain. Like, I personally wouldn't have triple captain now. I feel it's too early. I would have rather saved it for a double game week and hope that maybe if I put in Haaland and they end up having a double game week and they get Ipswich in that double game week, I could maybe use that. That's 51 points plus maybe another 20 or 30 points depending on the other fixture. That's 80 points from one player. That's more than what most people get in a game week. This week's average point score for the week was 69 points. Please don't make any jokes about that.
Well,
But
I'm
yeah,
actually one of those
the
guys that actually hit the 69 points. So,
okay, no,
looking forward into that. There's a little bit of details, but haven't had the two great games. Hoping to do better in the third one.
yeah, no. For me as well, the first week was horrible for me. This week I managed to pull about 56 points. I see that there was a team that pulled 154 points. My word, this is crazy.
Mhm.
There was Son, Romero, Smith Rowe, Madueke, Salah, Haaland, all on one team. Like, I'm lost. I don't know what to
Mind
say.
blowing, mind blowing.
Um, yeah, yeah. I really don't know. Yeah. Now, Sean, from my point, I'm really liking the way the season is going though. I'm liking the performance of the teams. All of the big teams are really putting it in. The smaller teams as well are definitely doing their part. they're giving the big teams a run for their money. Things are changing. I know at my house there's always screaming about the scores and stuff. Like if something unexpected happens, it's like there's a big scream. I mean, you know how it goes there. But yeah, I don't know. How are you feeling about the rest of the season?
Well, I think the season is very unpredictable. There is so much more depth. There is so many different players that you can look at this season. The pricing is ridiculous. As always, FPL knows how to play with your mind and kind of keep you edged and on your toes constantly. And going into the season, we are going to see a lot more of goals, a lot more of actually clean sheets. If you look back at the first two games, you'll notice Arsenal and Liverpool are tied for the most clean sheets. They have been playing very well. Two big sides, performances on both ends of the pitch. But we're going to have to look at a lot more of these big names, these big differentials. And who knows, it might end up as one of those one rare seasons. Like you said, one season wonder of Salah, or we could just have another repeat of Cole Palmer going through and demolishing every defense like we saw last week. Shout out to Joe Star. I think he faced the most shots that whole game. The man did concede. If you have Joe Star in your team, I hope you rest in peace because that one was just really ridiculous. But going back into that, a lot of people that are looking at Tottenham, and that is a big underrated team. Right now, they do play Newcastle this weekend. Newcastle has had kind of a rough start to the season. I think that it's going to be an exciting game. If you are not a Liverpool and United fan, do watch that game. You are going to see a lot of differentials. You are going to pick up on a lot of different players. Like you said, Pedro Porro, very standout choice. A lot of people have Pedro Porro. Myself, I went with the differential. I've got Udogie in the back. He did pull up 7 points as well. And he's just been brilliant throughout the season. His returns on attack is amazing. And I think there's a lot of things that this season has had that we haven't seen. I mean, people going with the big triple captain early on in the season. Who would have thought that, love? I mean, I'm not the type of person that wants to gamble with my FPL team so early in the game. I mean, Haaland did pay off. He did perform. But it's going to be a very exciting season, and I'm excited to see what a lot of the guys are going to do. On that note, I mean, Xerxes, and I know it. We know him in the groups. We've seen him. He has won a couple of the leagues. We've been around. He's been around in the season for a few years now, and that team is kind of the pinnacle of always striving to be the best. And that is kind of what FPL is about. When you look at the players, they are always either giving you big returns, or if you have Watkins in your team like I do, you're kind of regretting the 9 million that's sitting there. But I think we're going to have a great season. And just on that note, what are your top differential picks for this game week?
Um, so I don't necessarily have too much. I haven't really looked at much changes and things to my team. I know, like I said, it's one or two changes, but a big watch for this week. Like I know it's gonna be tricky to decide. Again, it's the Arsenal game. It's gonna be Saka and these guys all going head to head. It's gonna be Watkins and Eze. Um, yeah, Saka, Welbeck. I mean, Saka and Welbeck are going head to head this coming weekend as well. It's
Oh,
gonna
that's
be
going to be
a
a tough
Brighton
game.
Arsenal thing, like I said. It's gonna be very tricky. Now, I know if I was you, I would probably try and rather go for both of them in my team because if I'm looking at it, 15.6 million for both of them, that's the price of Haaland, but I'm getting two players and two fantastic players. So why not? I mean, theoretically, Haaland did fantastic with his 51 points on the triple captain. But if I went and triple captained somebody else, I could have gotten similar returns. I mean, it's nothing that I'm not saying anything against people who triple captain. But yeah, uh, things could go any way. It's crazy. it's hard to say who I really want to choose for this weekend. I still feel it's too early in the season to settle and say these are going to be top performers for the entire season. We've seen
Hmm.
it. There's players that we didn't expect that are coming out of nowhere and demolishing everyone. Like you said, they could pull a Cole Palmer. Who knows? Who really knows? Now, speaking of that, though, I know we've mentioned Zuxki, and I know it quite a bit. We are hoping to get him on the show one of these weeks. So yeah, if you are listening, Zuxki, and I know it, just remember you're going to get that message from me one of these days, and hopefully we get to see you on the show. Hopefully, the fans get to see you on the show. Yeah, and I don't know. From me, that's it for this week. I don't know about you, Shan. Is there anything else that you want to use to conclude this episode? Or can we leave it at this? I mean, I know we said in the first episode we don't want to go too long on the episodes, but we kicked it at 25, 26 minutes on today's episode. And I think we're going to go longer each week because things are just getting crazy. I know. I understand that it might be difficult to sit and listen to these two idiots talk about soccer and whatever, just the banting every week like this. But trust me, you'll get used to it. We had to get used to it. Our parents had to get used to it. Everybody had to get used to it. So you will too. So subscribe, hit the notifications, like, share. Sean, lastly, let us know if there's anything else from you. Otherwise, we can call it a night.
Well, basically, guys, the one thing that I do want you guys to do is drop your predicted scores for the Liverpool versus United game. Let's see what you guys are actually thinking for this game and let the best team win. I mean, it's going to be a great season ahead, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for always sharing. And we do appreciate the support.
And that's it from the Football Classic for this week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and join our Football Classic Fantasy Premier League down in the comments right now. See you in the next episode.